Hey friends, it's Corey from Hey Let's Make Stuff, and in today's craft we are combining two of my favorite machines in my craft room, my Glowforge laser and my Sawgrass sublimation printer. We are making these cute sublimated ornaments. So basically the back is sublimated and the whole ornament itself is cut out on my Glowforge. Now, you may not have a Glowforge or other laser in your craft room and you may not have a sublimation printer, but I wanted to give you some options to see just how you can combine some of these crafting machines to create really cool projects. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I do want to pull the trigger on that laser, or oh, I could add a sublimation printer. That's pretty cool. This craft is just to inspire you, and if you already have both machines, go ahead and make it. You can put whatever design you want here on the back. I've gone with like a starry night theme and a couple different colors here, but you can put buffalo plaid or glitter or whatever you'd like. And you can use basically any type of layered file to create this sort of look. In the description below, I've linked to the blog post for this video, and in that blog post, I've linked to some great options to make these sort of layered ornaments. This technique will also work on other layered laser cut projects like decor pieces or signs, and it will work basically on any wood as well. So if you don't have a laser cutter, you can use this particular technique to sublimate on wood. So what are you going to need to make this project? Obviously, you're going to need a laser cutter. So I have two. I have a Glowforge and I have an Xtool M1. For this one, I'm using the Glowforge. It just happens to be a bit faster, but you can totally cut this on the M1 as well. You're also going to need wood. So I'm using the Glowforge light maple plywood. There are lots of options in lots of different colors, but I liked the light color against the dark sublimated background, which is why I went with this sort of light maple color. If your wood doesn't come pre-masked like this Glowforge would, you're also going to need masking tape. It comes in very long rolls and you can just put it on here just like this paper masking here. I've linked to it in the description. Then for the sublimation part of this project, you're going to need a sublimation printer. Again, I've got two of them. I've got my Sawgrass SG500, which I'm using for this project because I love it. I also have a converted Epson printer, which will work as well. To make your ornament sublimatable, I don't think sublimatable is a word, but I'm going to go ahead and go with it. You're going to need a lamination pouch. So yes, these are the same sublimation sort of pouches that kindergarten teachers use to laminate all sorts of things in the classroom. You can get them really cheap, but basically it's a poly material so that sublimation ink will stick to it. It comes in sort of a big pouch and we'll be cutting it down for this project. Additionally, you're going to need a heat press because sublimation requires a heat press. I'm using my Cricut Auto Press, which is on the other side of the room, and you're also going to need heat-resistant tape to tape your sublimation image to your ornament. You're also going to need a craft knife. I seem to have lost the lid on mine, so I should probably find that, as well as some craft glue. I actually recommend the E6000 glue. I went to pull out my bottle and it's completely dry. Apparently I didn't put the cap on very well, so I'm using tacky glue for this, as well as some ribbon or twine or string for hanging your ornament. Let's start with the laser portion of our project. I'm going to pop over to the Glowforge app and we'll get that file set up. Here I am in the Glowforge app. I've already turned my machine on and I put my material here in the bottom of the Glowforge bed, which you can see here. This is the camera view. So to upload the ornament, go to the plus sign and click upload, and then navigate to your ornament. And then it will take a few seconds here as it prepares the design. All right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and drag these down to the bottom corner so I'm not wasting material here. Right now, these are set to engrave, so let's set them to cut. So then you're going to want to select your material here. I'm choosing the light maple plywood, and I don't particularly love the settings for this, so I'm going to actually move these over just a little bit. It looked like it shifted my material a little bit. I didn't find the actual Glowforge settings to cut as well as I wanted for these. So I'm going to go up here to the settings and I'm going to choose 170 and full. I think that the speed for light maple plywood might be closer to 180, but if you just slow it down a little bit, that laser has a little bit more time to get all the way through, and that seemed to work really well for me. All right, so that's it. You can make multiple copies or change the size if you'd like, but I'm going with this file as is. So I'm going to hit print, and then over here, my Glowforge is going to prepare my print. And once it's ready to go, I will go and hit that magic button. All right, we have our project cut out. Now we need to peel away this masking on here. So I just use my fingernails. You can also use, there's like a plastic razor blade that works really well, but you know, I'm not gonna do that today. So basically you just peel up the mask on both sides, just being careful not to scratch the wood. And I find the more slowly you go, the better it works. You wanna make sure you get all of this off. Sometimes the little edges of the trees may still be stuck, but just make sure you're peeling this off just like this. All right, go ahead and do the other side and both sides of the solid ornament piece. I've got both of my pieces unmasked, So now it's time to create our sublimation image. So I'm going to be using Print Manager for my Sawgrass, but if you have an Epson printer, you can use basically any software out there. I have a big list of them. I can link to those in the description, but I'm going to be using Print Manager just because it's really easy with my Sawgrass. All right, to access Print Manager on a Mac, you go up here and click Print Manager. So my instructions for Print Manager are on a Mac. If you're looking for PC instructions, Angie Holden from the Country Chic Cottage has a great tutorial, so I'll go ahead and link to that. I will also link to my own full tutorial on using Print Manager. So I'm going to speed through this a little bit. I don't want this video to take forever. So if you click Print Manager up here at the top, you can choose Open Local File, and then you can navigate to the file that you want to open. So I've got a bunch of star files here that I downloaded from Design Bundles. So I'm going to choose this sort of purpley star, and then Print Manager will open. Now, depending on the size of your actual image, you're probably going to see this warning that says one or more jobs do not fit within the current page layout settings. That's totally fine. We're going to fix it. So for this substrate, there's no option for laminate sheet. So I chose white glitter HTV, worked really well. I'm guessing that most of these settings will actually probably work fine, but you can choose that. You want to make sure your image is mirrored. And then go to Layout. And from here, you want to make sure Print Manager Performs Layout is selected. You want to trim that white space, and you want to impose the margins. This basically means that there's a little bit of white space around the edge of your page because your printer can't print edge to edge. Then go to the Jobs tab, and here you'll see the actual image. And you'll see that right now, it's more than 12 inches big, which is why it's not showing up on our paper. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this to 8. And the other side will change proportionally. And now you'll see that it'll fit on my page. That's it. Go ahead and hit print and we'll grab it off the printer. All right, I've got my image printed. Let's sublimate. So as is, you can't really sublimate this wood. There's nothing on here that will make the sublimation ink adhere to the image. You might get sort of a faded image, but it's not going to be bright at all. That's where this lamination sheet comes in. So what I want you to do is we're going to be laminating this back piece so you can set the tree piece aside. I want you to cut just a square of this lamination piece. Make sure you open it up here. And just cut one square that's about the size of the ornament. Before we adhere this lamination sheet to this ornament, we're going to do a pre-press on the ornament. I went through a lot of trial and error to figure out why I was getting sort of a bubbly looking sublimation image, and I think it's because there is a bit of moisture in these. So I have found that if you do a 60-second pre-press using your heat press on the ornament, it does a lot to minimize that sort of bubbling. So I'm going to pop over to my AutoPress and preheat this. I'll be using a piece of butcher paper on the bottom and a piece of butcher paper on the top to protect the ornament. Pre-press done. Now we can add the lamination sheet here. So basically you can cover it here, but don't cover the hole. Just put the lamination sheet up to the bottom of the hole part. On the first couple that I made, I covered the hole, and let me just tell you, it's useless because it's very hard to cut the lamination sheet off. So go ahead and just leave that straight up to the hole here and press for 20 seconds with butcher paper underneath and on top. All right, we have our laminated image. You can see here that it sticks to the butcher paper a little bit, but if you peel it up while it's hot, it's not difficult to peel up. I realized I forgot to tell you all the temperature we're working with today. So every press that we're working with today is 380 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I need to cut this excess lamination sheet off the edge. So I like using a craft knife for this. So all you have to do is basically drag your craft knife around the edge of the ornament. Technically you can use scissors to do this, but I find the craft knife is just so much easier, just like that. If you have any rough edges, I just did this very well. If you have any rough edges, you can go ahead and clean those up with either a little pair of scissors or a sanding block. Now our ornament is sublimatable. So because it has this plastic sheet on here, the sublimation ink has something to adhere to. So for this project, I'm just using this star image. So I'm going to cut a piece of the star image a little bit larger than my ornament, just like this. And if you want to try and line it up so that you know that your trees will have, you know, stars showing, you can go ahead and do that. For me, I'm just going to kind of do my best here. So now you want to tape down your ornament with the laminated side down, just like this, using a little heat resistant tape. See, just like this. And now we're going to press again for 60 seconds at 385 degrees. All right, I went ahead and let this cool, and then I took the sublimation image off, and it looks great. So the last step here is just to glue this piece to the backing piece. You can flip it over. I kind of like to decide where, for at least with this image, where the stars look the best. So I flipped it over. And so I will just put a little bit of glue. You want the smallest amount of glue you can use because it will seep. Thankfully it dries clear, and on a shiny background it actually doesn't look too bad. So I just use the smallest amount of glue here. And then before I do this, I actually spread it around with my fingers so there's no big gloopy bits to seep out. And flip it over here and glue it together just like this. Now you can clamp this. I'm gonna go ahead and set it under a stack of heavy books. Oh, hey, look, it's my own book. This is a Cricut book, which has nothing to do with what we're crafting today, but my Cricut book does come out in January, so I will link to that in case you are also a Cricut crafter. I love all my crafting machines, but I'm gonna go ahead and let this sit and really let that glue set so that those two pieces don't come apart. All right, my glue has set, so the only thing left to do is to add a little ribbon or twine, whatever you want to hang your ornament with. Just run it through the two holes here and tie with a little knot. All right, our little sublimated laser cut ornament is done. It does seem like it requires a lot, but they're actually fairly easy to make. You can use all sorts of sublimated images, all sorts of ornament types. Like I said, I did a blog post on this, so I will go ahead and link to some of my favorite ornament files down in the description below. You can also get this tree ornament file for free. There's a link to that as well. I hope you enjoyed this particular craft. I know not everybody has both a laser cutter and a sublimation printer, but I wanted to show you the magic that you can make with both of them. If you have any questions about this project, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, I would love a like. Subscribe to my channel for more weekly content, and I'll see you next week.